everyone, my name is Dr. Melissa Vosen-Callens, and I'm the College Teaching Certificate Coordinator at NDSU. This short video is going to talk to you about the final component of the College Teaching Certificate, the Teaching Portfolio. On the screen, you'll see the College Teaching Certificate website. This website is housed under the Office of Teaching and Learning. So what is a teaching portfolio? A teaching portfolio is a living document, and it should change as you practice and grow professionally. Many of you may have started a teaching portfolio in your first class for the College Teaching Certificate. It's important to remember, because a teaching portfolio is a living document and changes as you grow, it should look different than what you created your first semester. The portfolio is for your current and future use. Not only will this portfolio help you obtain the College Teaching Certificate, it should also help you find a job. Many search committees require applicants to submit teaching portfolios or portions of their teaching portfolio with their applications. You can see in the middle of the screen the required elements. When you turn in your teaching portfolio for the College Teaching Certificate, it must have a teaching philosophy, sample teaching materials, sample of diagnostic, formative, and summative assessments, an annotated bibliography, application of scholarship, evaluations of teaching by your supervisors, peers, or students, as well as a reflective essay that talks about how you've changed as a teacher since you've started the program. Let's take a look at the rubric. The rubric is how the College Teaching Certificate Board will evaluate your portfolio. A candidate must be proficient in all of these categories in order to obtain the College Teaching Certificate. It is common to ask a candidate to revise at least one or two of these sections. So the first assessed component is the teaching philosophy. Your teaching philosophy should demonstrate how your teaching goals, methodologies, and assessments are evidence-based, appropriate to the discipline, and supported by research. If your teaching philosophy does not address research, is not evidence-based, it will be returned to you and a revision will be asked. The next component are your teaching materials. You should provide a wide array of teaching materials. These teaching materials should demonstrate your intentional use of scholarly teaching practices. Your teaching materials should reflect the scholarship of teaching and learning and promote student engagement. Many times, candidates will provide syllabi, assignment sheets, classroom activities, as well as sample lecture slides. The next assessed component is the assessments area. This area is one area that students often struggle with, so pay particular attention to this part of the video. Your portfolio should demonstrate thoughtful, assessful practices, including when, how, and what type of assessments are used. So for your portfolio, what we would like you to do is to define what is a formative assessment, what is a summative assessment, and what is a diagnostic assessment. In addition to answering these questions, you should also be able to answer, when do I use each? You also need to talk about how you know an assessment is valid. And finally, and again this is often missed, make sure you provide evidence of how assessment results are used to support pedagogical and curricular revisions. So in this section, I would define the three types of assessments. I would provide an example of each three type of assessments. So an example, formative assessment, an example, summative assessment, an example, diagnostic assessment, and then choose one of those and talk about what you learned when you gave student that formative assessment or when you gave students that summative assessment. Based on what you learned after you analyzed their scores, after you analyzed their work, what do you plan to do in regard to pedagogical and or curricular revisions? So what do you plan to do differently? What do you plan to do in the future? Don't forget that. It's an important part of the assessments area of your portfolio. If you forget it, your portfolio will be returned and you will be asked to complete a revision. The next assessed component is the bibliography section. This section should contain an annotated bib of at least 8 scholarly sources that reflect a rigorous and focused research foundation to the teaching and learning interest of the candidate. Your annotations should reflect original research, and within your annotations, it's important that you describe what were the research methods of that particular study, what were the findings from that study, and then what are the implications in general and for you and your teaching. So again, it's super important that you find original research, and within your annotations, you need to have identified the research methods, the findings, and the implications. Sometimes people forget that. The next section is the application of scholarship to teaching materials. In this section, it's important that you provide a lesson plan that's based on some piece of scholarship. So I would recommend adding that piece of scholarship into your portfolio. So go ahead and add that short piece, that research study, and then provide your lesson plan and explain how that lesson plan draws on that particular scholarship. In addition, and finally, you need to include a reflective essay. The reflective essay is a culminating document for the portfolio, and it achieves the following. It gives you an opportunity to synthesize how all the different components of the college teaching certificate program have influenced your development as a teacher. So you need to describe and reflect how different components of the program, so that's everything from your intro course, STEM 810 or COM 702, all the way to your teaching practicum. You need to talk about those components and how they have supported your growth, and make sure that you situate your thinking, again, within the scholarship of teaching and learning. This is the rubric, again, that the College Teaching Certificate Board will use to evaluate your portfolio. It is common to ask students to revise 1 or 2 elements, so please don't get discouraged if you're asked to revise. However, I wanted to record this short video because I thought it would be helpful to you and maybe prevent some of you from having to do some revisions. If you have any questions at all when you're working on your portfolio, you are always welcome to contact me, the director, Dr. Melissa Boesen-Callens. Thanks.